I appreciate your coming over today to talk in front of the camera. How's it feeling being here this morning?
A little worrisome.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I really do appreciate your coming and volunteering to demonstrate some of the things that we do and trying to help people with anxiety.
Sure.
So to start off, could you just tell us a bit about what anxiety is like for you, what kind of symptoms you have?
I feel like I always worry about everything all day. I mean, there's always some anxiety, but there are other times when it's worse, when I just feel like I can't explain why something horrible is going to happen. And then it makes me really edgy and nervous, and I notice that my hands are sweaty and my breathing changes, and I get really frightened. And there doesn't have to be a real reason, but I just feel frightened most of the time and just worry all the time.
You said that you're afraid something really terrible is going to happen. Can
Yeah.
you tell us what you're afraid of? What do you think might happen?
Well, I'm afraid of, a lot of times I'm afraid of being in a crowd, that I won't be able to get out. But it's really silly because I'm also afraid of being alone. I don't want to be home alone, but I don't like big crowds. I feel like I'm trapped if it's crowded. And driving is horrible too. I'm really frightened about driving. And then at work, I don't like getting on the elevator. I'm afraid that it'll fall, or I'm also afraid that it'll be crowded and I'll be stuck in it.
Right. Okay. Well, there are a number of things then that you have some fear about. Is there anything else that you haven't told us about?
I guess I always kind of worry that if I do have a panic attack, I'll faint or maybe even die. And if I'm alone, no one will find me. Or if I'm in a crowd and I faint, I'm going to just be so totally embarrassed because everybody's going to see that happen.
All right. Well, let's try to find out a little bit more about these panic attacks and what they're like. You've done a really good job so far at telling us about it, but maybe we can find out a bit more.
Okay.
So there's this fear that something really terrible is going to happen, maybe even die.
Possibly.
Okay. What do you think the likelihood is that that would actually happen?
Well, it seems pretty low right now when I talk about it, but when it's
How about in
going
the middle of
on,
one of these attacks?
it seems real.
It does?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I could have a heart attack or a stroke.
Heart attack or stuff. Anything else that could happen?
Well, I worried that, like, if I had an attack when I was driving, that I might kill somebody else. I mean, if I fainted while I was driving, that would be horrible. I could hit another car and hurt other people.
Any other fears of things that are happening when you're not driving? When you're having a panic attack?
When I'm having the attack.
You said a stroke, a heart attack, fainting?
The fainting. That's
How about
the big one.
Thoughts that you might lose control or that something would happen to your psychology?
Well, yeah,
I mean, the
I
way you think or the way you feel. What kinds
that
of
I
fears do you
can't
have?
think straight, or I get real confused. I feel overwhelmed a lot of times when I'm having a panic attack, like I can't find my way. I can't see clear.
Right. Now, have there been times when these things have actually happened, like you've fainted or you've had a stroke or a heart attack or you've
I've never had a
anything
stroke.
terrible like this has happened?
Not a stroke or a heart attack. I have fainted before,
And how often has that happened?
just 2 times.
Okay, and how far back is that?
One was a few months ago, and one was when I was a child.
And what was that like when you fainted?
It was a few months ago.
Yes.
I felt like I didn't have control over my body. I was breathing really fast, and then I got real tingly, and everything kind of got dark and closed in, and then I fainted.
So breathing fast was a big part of this.
Yes.
And then the tunnel vision, and then you actually did faint?
I did
And
faint.
how long were you out?
Oh, just a few seconds.
And what happened then?
Well, when I woke up, my hands were numb, and I remember asking my fiance, did I have a stroke, because I was numb.
Oh, I see.
And that was scary. It was
Okay.
pretty overwhelming. But I mean, I woke right up and it went away quickly, but it was pretty frightening when it happened.
Okay. Now, just so I'm sure I understand all the anxiety symptoms you're having, are there other things you haven't told me about yet?
My heart races, and it feels really, really fast, like it's thumping in my chest.
How fast would you think it is?
I've never counted it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Do you know how fast the heart beats when people are feeling calm and when they're not nervous? Okay, so maybe we can cover that later on, and what normal heartbeats are and what normal breathing rates are and what happens to you whenever you get into one of these attacks.
Okay.
All right. Now, I'm also hearing about that you sort of stay away from some things like crowds and so forth.
Well, I told you last time, too, I kind of quit driving because I just am too afraid that I'm going to either get lost or hurt somebody.
Okay, so how about the driving? What kinds of things do you avoid there?
I'm not driving to work anymore. My fiance's dropping me off at work and picking me up, and so that causes trouble with his schedule. And then I feel real dependent on everybody. You know, how do I get home? I can go to the store because I can go through the subdivision on the back street, but I won't go out on the highway. And so I feel, like I said, dependent. I can't just take off and go shopping when I want to.
How much driving are you actually doing?
Not very much.
Like in a week, how many trips would you take?
Maybe 2.
2. Now, was there a time when you drove more than this?
Oh, sure. I mean, I used to drive to work and back every
you?
day
Okay,
on
how
the
about
expressway.
Driving on expressways? Did you drive across bridges? Like over to Indiana and so forth? Okay, so this is a big change for you.
Yeah, in just the past few months.
So when you were driving your normal amount, how many trips would you take a day, or a week, would you say?
Oh, I went somewhere every day of the week.
Okay, so
either
a lot
to
more
work
than 2.
Or, yeah.
Okay, I'm getting the picture. Now, I think I recall you said something about troubles with getting real nervous in the cafeteria, too.
Yeah, I don't like the crowd. Sometimes I worry that I'm going to drop my tray and everybody will look at me, or I'll faint and have this spell and people will see that. And I don't want to go down there by myself, so I try to go with people that I work with, and I'm afraid I'll lose track of them because it's such a crowd.
All right.
So then a lot of times I don't even go to lunch.
That's what I'm wondering, how many times you actually go to the cafeteria?
I haven't really kept track, but maybe every other day I try. Sometimes I go get my food and have to leave.
Do you miss your lunch sometimes because of this? Are you getting hungry?
No, I just eat at my desk.
Oh, you do? All right.
Or out of the vending machine.
All right. Well, it looks like right now you're not feeling too nervous. Is that right?
Not too bad.
Because
I'm a
you
little
look like
sweaty,
you're-
but I'm comfortable here.
Yeah, great. Now, let's try to think together about how we're going to work on some of these problems. So if you were going to rank order the seriousness or the degree of difficulty of these things, where would you put these different anxiety problems that you've described? What do you think is the biggest problem for you?
I guess the biggest problem probably is driving, because I'm so dependent on everybody else, and I think my fiance and family are getting tired of carting me around.
Right. And then how about after that? That's another big problem.
Another big problem is crowds, being in crowds. I mean, I work, in a building downtown
Would
here.
you like to be more comfortable being out in crowds? All right.
So that I didn't have to, I rearrange my schedule around everybody else.
All right.
Another thing I think I told you about was the elevator. I'm afraid there's a lot of people in the elevator that I'll be stuck.
Okay.
So sometimes I walk the stairs.
You
That's
do?
easier.
Okay.
Or
And then how about the cafeteria thing? Where does that rank in all these anxiety problems that you have?
probably close to the driving.
Pretty significant then. Okay. Well, if you were going to try to pick a place to start, what would be your top choice right now? Try to get a handle on some of these
I think the driving's the biggest problem, so I don't know if I want to start there.
Yeah, that's a good idea, because sometimes if you learn some techniques that'll help you manage some of the things that are not quite as bad, then you can use that when you try to attack the things that are tougher.
Okay.
So what do you think?
Well, then maybe at work either getting on and off the elevator or going to the cafeteria.
Okay, great. Well, why don't we start there then?
Okay.